You can go to that old terrestrial station in your automobile if you don't want to listen to satellite or your own device. Just check us out at 900 AM or 96.1 FM. You can also follow us on Facebook or on YouTube. Check out the live stream, should be up by now. And if you're on Facebook, we'll shout you out, take your comments and your questions. I know some folk, it's 6 in the morning. You're probably trying to get ready for work, and that terrible commute you have from your bedroom to your kitchen to your home office or wherever it is that your children make you do your work these days, now that they're back in school. What's up, Royster?
Yo, what's going on? Actually, it was kind of funny when you were saying that because actually a lot of people are traveling because the traffic is getting bad again out here in Philadelphia. So, yeah, I don't know how many folk are still going to their kitchen tables and or their basement offices to do their work. But, yo, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I have to ask you, because you know my man, did you catch, we had meetings last night, so that was part of the thing, but did you catch any of that Trump interview last night?
Oh my God, this morning. So first of all, let me just say that I totally misunderstood. I thought he was coming to Philly because he wanted to be in Philly.
Yeah.
He was basically dragged to Philly by ABC News. This was their town hall, and so they set the stage. Oh my God, this was horrible. I mean,
the Constitution Center, and I'm like, why didn't it catch on fire? Because it was bad. It was bad.
Well, the CNN. I was trying to find the clip. It was on Apple TV, so I saw it there, but could not find it on CNN's webpage, where Don Lemon had a fact checker who said, "Don, this is just a preliminary list," and he went on for like 5 minutes. He said it was a fire hose of lies. I mean, it was just. Have you ever seen anything? I mean, it's just like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it.
So let me just say this. So yesterday was a day full of meetings, right? Power had some major meetings going on yesterday. It was a lot of stuff. So and because we get up very early now to do the show, I went to bed early. As I'm laying there drifting off to sleep, my good friend, Deacon Thomas Butler of the Household of Faith, formerly Harold O. Davis Church, calls me. He's like, Rev, I got to talk to you, man. I need your help. Please explain to me what this guy's talking about. And I was like, he's like, are you watching this? I said, he's not going to say anything new that the lies we haven't already heard. But then, and then I had another phone call, somebody else. And finally, I was like, okay, let me turn this thing on. And I am listening and just appalled that the Constitution Center did not burn down because of all the lies that were being shared in that space, right? I'm like, this guy spits on the Constitution, and we are sitting here watching this, and it was just very frustrating. I did hear the story. I didn't see this part where the one sister, basically, he was trying to cut her off, but she yelled at him. Oh, you saw it?
I saw it. So here's the setup. So the woman who's asking the question, I will give him this. She phrased her question in a way where it seemed like her question was over. What she was getting at is, should I lose my health care benefits and my access to medication, I'm going to be in trouble. So she used the word should. And he kind of took it as that was the beginning of the question. And when she paused, he tried to jump in to answer. And she was like, excuse me, sir, I'm not finished. This is a black woman from Philly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was with all the right attitude. And he was like, well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. And she went on. But it's the kind of fact checking that reporters can't do. Really, when you get down to it, so you have in the background of everyone's mind while he is speaking, we all have the tapes of Bob Woodward that are fresh in our memory.
That's right.
Hey, Bob, of course I downplayed it. I mean, this thing is a killer, Bob. Hey, I've got a friend who just died from it, Bob. We're all replaying this and still trying to process it. And then here's a voter who comes up and says, why don't you wear a mask? Oh, I always wear a mask. What are you talking about? It's like, no, you don't wear a mask. The voters are asking all the questions that when reporters do it, he blows up, he calls them nasty, but you can't do that in a really eerie room with 21 people where it's supposed to be like a couple hundred. and the whole set, and they're just bombarding him, question after question about the pandemic. Oh my God, I'm telling you, I see why Biden said he's not going to do it now. When you're ahead, man, just let the other guys squirm. It was awful.
I yeah, yeah, and the question for me isn't he's just going to lie. I mean, there's nothing when he opens. How do you know when Donald Trump's lying when he opens his mouth? I mean, that's really what it really comes down to. Now,
well, there was also real quick on it.
Yeah.
There was also a question about race and racism, and a black guy in the audience. So mind you, these were all undecided voters. I guess I should have said that as well. So these are all voters who have not made their mind up yet, which is kind of hard to believe, but there they are. So he asked the question about, race and racism and why you don't address that. Trump says racism. I mean, I hope there's not a problem with race in America. I don't have a problem with race in America. I get along with all races in America. And that was his answer on how do you handle race and racism in America.
So, I mean, here's the thing that's really interesting about that, right? So the Constitution Center has been the site of where President Obama, when he was Senator Obama, went there to do a speech about race in America. And if I remember correctly, not too long ago, I think Biden went back there and did the same thing. So it's like, for him to say that there's not a problem with race in America is absolutely atrocious. So let me just say this. If Will Mega is sitting out there, this is the reason why you go vote in this election, right? Not that you don't know that already. But, from your question yesterday that you posed to us about why should anybody vote for Biden, let me just say this. I'm not out here stumping for any candidate right now because, I mean, you can vote for whomever you want to vote for. I want people just to go out and vote. But if there's a reason why you as a young black person, and we don't think we're really that young anymore, but, for the younger generation about why they need to go vote, it's stuff like this. You get somebody that stands up and says, I don't think there's race or a race problem in America. I get along with everybody. And yet we are seeing a preponderance of police that are continually shooting and killing black folk without any regard whatsoever for their lives or their dignity. When we have folk that are losing health insurance and afraid that they aren't going to have health insurance, there's one person that's saying, I'm going to take it away. There's one person that's saying, I'm going to make sure that you have it. There's one person that's saying, we're going to do some reforming of the police and make sure that our communities are safer. There's another person that thinks that our job is to be the law and order people, and that's the way that the world has to operate. There's folk out there that are saying, we want to make sure folk get housing and have resources to be able to do that. There's one that's saying, take it away from them. They're all lazy and they don't deserve it anyway. Those are the kind of reasons that as young black folk, we need to get out and make sure that folk are voting. You might not always be voting for the person that you think is going to bring utopia, but there always is one that is the lesser evil or the one that's at least a neutral party that will do less damage than the other one. And I think, it's a demonstration last night about why America is so jammed up right now. People keep talking about these videos that Trump is putting out, trying to lay out a picture of what Joe Biden's America looks like with all the violence. And then, some wise people have said, wait a minute, all the pictures that have been taken have been during Donald Trump's presidency. And so this is what Trump America looks like, not what Biden's America looks like. And I think that that's a piece that we have to really wrestle with.
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, for those who are on Facebook Live, glad to see you there. Glad to see Leslie always on there and representing. Bishop Peggy, Sheila, Gary, Lamar, and others. Listen, hit the share button. Send this out to your friends and family. And if you're on there, give us a shout so we can see who is actually listening on this morning. So, I mean, listen, there's the Trump who is on the stump, right? Just kind of out there freestyling. And you get to say whatever you want when you're surrounded by your fans and your sycophants and basically just people who are paid to just tell you how great you are. And then there's Trump that is face to face with real people. One of the questions that you're going to see that's going to make all of the news rounds is the clip between a young black woman who asks him point blank, given the gravity of coronavirus, given what you have known. And remember, a study came out in Columbia from Columbia researchers yesterday, well-respected institution, that had he acted when he got the information, 84% of the people who have died would not have died. That is beyond sobering. That of the almost 200,000 people, 84% of them would still be alive. So 170,000 people that did not have to die. And so she asked him the question, why did you downplay it? Trump's response is, even in spite of what we heard on the tapes when he was most honest, I didn't downplay anything. In fact, you know what? He said, I upplayed it. His words. First of all, I didn't even know it was a word. I do, my vocabulary expands every time I'm around him or I get to listen to him. So I'm going to have to, start using that. We all talk about downplaying. He said, no, I upplayed it. No. You misunderstood. I upplayed it with my actions. See, I took great actions. And so, no. And plus, Winston Churchill downplayed it during the Blitzkrieg in London when they were being bombed every night. He was up on top of the building, said, hey, don't panic, folk. It's all right there, just bomb. I'm like, this guy. Look, you're absolutely right. If you don't know, the differences between these two candidates yet, here's one big difference. One of them is going to get you killed because literally, this is not hyperbole. Again, 170,000 people, according to reports, have needlessly died because he thought it was in our best interest not to panic us by giving us the truth. Mm-hmm. I don't know. This is mind you, people still want to open schools, by the way. I wanted to, to just get to this quick story. There's something that's actually happening right now, this movement in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, across the river from us, mm-hmm. where parents are out here with their signs, please put our children back in school. There is a newspaper article in the front page of the regional section in the Inquirer. Reporter, I'm not sure if she's a reporter, if this is an opinion piece. It seems like an opinion piece where she's saying that we can't accept virtual school as the answer. Now, here's the problem. She is comparing going to school with people opening up like pool halls and bowling alleys. You and I pastor churches. Right. Our churches are in a virtual environment until further notice. Absolutely. Because certain environments are different. When you come to church, you want to hug each other. You're touching all the same elements. It's just not safe. School is the same way. Can you imagine 5-year-olds running around trying to keep their masks on and socially distance? They're 5. They can't do it.
Not going to work.
So explain this to me. Why is it that people continue to try to make these false kind of comparisons? Well, if they can go to the movies, why can't we go to church? If we could do this, why can't we go to school? It's just insane.
And even the movie theaters, though, have a limit on the number of people that are allowed in the theater environment.
Yeah,
and,
true.
And many of the schools in the Delaware Valley area, classrooms can get up to 31, 32, 33 kids in a classroom that usually aren't that big. So they're all on top of each other. They go to lunch together. They make, kids want to play. They want to argue. They want to wrestle and tussle. They want to hug each other. And it's very difficult to basically tell a kid to stand there and hold their hands to themselves, don't breathe too hard, and, go about their day. I think, part of my frustration with all this, and I hear parents, and, that some of them have to work and things like that. I think this is always the question that you have to ask yourself when you're having children. If I have to spend 24 hours a day with my kid, can I manage to do that? And, honestly, you have to really ask yourself that question. Is this a way that I can be? Because what we're really hearing is that parents saying, my kids are getting on my nerves. I can't deal with this. I need them to go back to school.
Well, I'm sorry. That's just probably not a question people are thinking when they're having kids, but I'm sorry.
Well, they're not thinking at all. At least, So, I think the challenge is, right, so now you have these children. Well, this is what it means to be a parent in this moment. And it can be very frustrating. And, to have to spend day in and day out. I know I have colleagues right now that are struggling with very young children, particularly those with young children. But it's just a very difficult situation. And I can't even begin to imagine or fathom how difficult it is for some parents and some families to go through this. But this is what parenting is at this moment, and it's a real struggle. And I certainly, I just don't, I have a problem with folk that I feel like are basically like, I need the schools to open because I can't take my kids anymore. Yeah. One thing, because a lot of times some of those parents are the very ones that are always complaining about what the schools are doing to their kids, because their kids are bad. Your kids are bad. They're out of control. That's part of the problem.
Come get these children.
You have created this spoiled child that is out of control, and now you're like, I can't take this. I can't take this. What's going on with this? I can't do this every day. Well, yeah. You know, that's something you got to work on. You got to work on that. You got to work on that. Get your kid in check.
And so listen, and real quick, so shout out to Gary, Larry, Marie. Glad to see Will Mega back, and Catherine as well. Glad you all are here. Catherine agrees with you, by the way, on your take on parents and children. How are you doing, Vashti? Vashti says most black women need to work. They are not just saying, I can't stay home with my children. This is true, Vashti.
I hear that, yeah.
But now, mind you, though, but those are not the people that I'm seeing continually on the news, you know, saying, come take these children and open up these schools.
They don't look like us.
I did not see a lot of black working moms on that video this morning out of Cherry Hill with these signs out there. So, and we absolutely sympathize with that. But look, we're in a pandemic. I know we got to go to break, but quickly, there is a story out that in Maine, of all places, I believe it was Maine or New Hampshire, but I think it's Maine, where a small wedding in August of 65 people that went above and beyond the stay-at-home order, which was no gathering more than 50 people, has been tied directly through contact tracing to over 170 cases and 7 deaths, including 6 of those 7 deaths were in a nursing home. And so again, you know, for the idea that, you know, Trump said last night, among other things, don't worry, it's gonna go away. He is still saying it's just gonna go away. And he said last night, it'll go away through herd immunity. That's our vaccine. Don't worry. If we don't get a vaccine, people are dying, okay? Yeah. We know that life is inconvenient now. We know that this sucks. We know that none of this is ideal. I am doing a radio show in a basement right now.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
This is not ideal. I'd rather be in the studio. But this is about saving lives. And so listen, we got to take a break. When we come back, Reverend Ed Bailey is going to be on from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, to help break down what is happening in that city in the wake of the shooting death of a black young man in his 20s from an officer. Maybe you've seen the video. If not, you might want to do a quick search to kind of prep you, you know, warning that is triggering. It is very violent, but we'll be right back on the other side.
Family Therapy Vignette Moments with Dr. Lucille Ijoy. Come on out and become a Word Radio member one by one. Renew your membership or get a new one. Get serious information and have some fun. Call 215-425-7875. That's 215-425-7875. Come on out and become a Word Radio member one by one. Renew your membership or get a new one. Get serious information and have some fun.
This is not a fad for us.
We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are
undeniably,
indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media.
WURD.
Now, a traffic update
on Word Radio.
Good morning. Pretty quiet start here in Philadelphia so far this morning. 95 southbound. Not a bad ride yet through the construction. Cotman down through Bridge. Down to 3 lanes. That'll jam up soon. Further south, no other major problems. Schuylkill Expressway westbound University through 30th. Some slowing there. Down to 1 lane because of construction. Eastbound Schuylkill looks good. The Vine Expressway through Center City. Pretty good ride. The Boulevard Route 1 southbound. No problems there. Into 76. PH Turnpike and the Blue Route 476 look good. 42, 55, 295 in New Jersey off the way. Quiet start there so far. For more traffic information, log on to SigAlert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
You're listening to Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. This is Dwayne Royster along with Mark Kelly Tyler. We have been ranting on this morning about the Trump town hall last night and talking about the challenges the parents face with their kids not being back in school. But now we're going to switch gears a little bit and have a conversation with Reverend Ed Bailey, who is a pastor of AME Church in Lancaster, PA, to discuss the tragic incident where police essentially just murdered a young man just a couple of days ago. There's been a lot of protests going on in the area. I'm going to turn this over to Reverend Dr. Tyler.
Hey, well, listen, as you said, Ricardo Munoz, 27 years old, was shot and killed by a Lancaster police officer just a couple of days ago. And it actually happened, I think, right around the corner from the church that Reverend Bailey pastors, Bethel AME. And glad to have him on this morning to hear directly what's happening from the ground. Reverend Bailey, welcome to the Power Hour.
Good to be here.
Yeah, so listen, what about, so the neighborhood, as I looked on the map, is this close to Bethel?
Yeah, it's all in the same area. Bethel's in the same area. They're not that far from us where this happened.
So talk a little bit about.
It's not that big a city. It's a couple of blocks away from us, though.
So what about, I mean, kind of give us an idea of like this neighborhood. I mean, what kind of neighborhood is it? And is something like this uncommon, you know, an incident with a resident ending with them being killed by the police in just a matter of seconds?
It's not uncommon. We've had it happen here before. Police in the city have done this same action before, so it's not uncommon. And I guess now people just have, police officers feel they have a license to do what they want to do, and using their gun first. So it's just escalating. They've been locking up people, putting them up for $1 million bail, not allowing them to call police officers, not allowing them to call their lawyer, their family. Nobody knows where they are. If the people on the street hadn't seen them taken, they wouldn't even have known that they had been taken. So it's just not that good here.
So wait, I'm sorry. You saying, when you said that people are being arrested and given $1 million bail, are you talking about people who are protesters?
Protesters, yeah. Yeah, so people
Wow.
who are protesting, they're doing the same thing that Trump has been doing across the country. And these folks, this is Trump country, so somebody said that there's Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania and Lower Alabama in between. So you have a police force here who operates in that manner. And so people have been taken off and arrested. Nobody knew who was arresting them. They haven't been given hadn't been told their rights in the beginning. And then finally we find out they have some young people too have $1 million worth of bail.
So the protesters are being arrested. What is the police department saying about the officer who was involved in the shooting?
Nothing. And that's the problem, because what happens in communities, people get distracted. They start talking about everything else, and the conversation becomes about the protester and about breaking windows and about bail, instead of talking about the number one thing, that we need a moratorium on shooting of citizens in Lancaster City. Nobody should be shot, especially in a city where other people live, and your bullet can go through somebody's window, through somebody's door, and nobody should be pulling a gun before they pull their spray out or anything else. They pull a gun. Come on. There used to be a nightstick the cops used to have. Now you don't see that. All you see is the gun first, and that doesn't make any sense. that'll shoot first. And somebody says they need more training. Well, you have all the training you need when you walk into a white neighborhood. You're not shooting white people. You're not killing white people. You're not walking into their homes in a domestic dispute and killing white people. When somebody has a mental problem, you're not killing those persons. There was a brother who walked down the street in one of those protests with a machine gun, and the cops drove right past him and didn't even arrest him, and found out he was somebody who had murdered somebody out there in Minnesota. So if white people can walk around with a gun and not be shot, not be taken. The brother walked into that AME church and killed folk, got a McDonald's sandwich. He didn't get shot. I mean, come on. It doesn't make sense that they're so afraid of people of color, mainly black people. So if you have a little dark skin, you look black. They don't care whether you're Puerto Rican or what. They think you're black, and they're willing to shoot you, and that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, so that's well said. So Royster, I mean, looking at the video, some people will instantly say, well, look, the young man he burst out of the house with a knife and ran straight toward the officer, and so he had no choice but to shoot. But, you know, in those 20 or 30, it's so fast, it may be 20 seconds that the entire encounter happened from the time he came out of the house and started, chasing him. But in the world of law enforcement, they spend almost all their time in training and preparation for these kind of moments, right? And that, so can you, what are your thoughts on this around, like, use of force and the fact that he only went to a gun? Did he have a taser? Did he have any other kind of training? Yeah.
I mean, that was my first thought. I'm like, where are the tasers? And I'm sorry, a knife and a gun are not proportional weapons, right? A knife, requires close in touch, to be able to work. A gun is something that can be shot from a distance and far away. Can it be a lethal weapon? I mean, they both can be very lethal weapons. But, the reality is that why are we always going to the gun first as a way to solve these situations, right? Guns are the problem here, and the people who use the guns are the problem here. If they think that the only way to resolve these issues is always go to a gun first. And in this particular circumstance, I think it was, basically seconds into this whole scenario that the gun was pulled and drawn. Where was the taser? Why wasn't there another means that could have brought this person down so they could have gotten to the issue and resolved this situation? But no, the first thing we do is we go to shoot to kill, and then we want to ask questions later on. This is very problematic. We understand, if I remember correctly from the story, that this is somebody that also has some mental health challenges. And so, is this the way that we're going to deal with mental health crisis now? That every time there's a mental health crisis, as a matter of fact, the young man was autistic. And so in these environments that are very stressful for a person that's autistic, they begin to behave in ways that we don't think a normal person would begin to behave. This is problematic. And, what would have happened in this particular circumstance had the 911 caller got a call and somebody said this domestic situation with this person that's autistic, and they sent out mental health counselors as opposed to sending out the police who could have disabled or talked this person down before something that did that. One of the things we don't recognize, too, is that the flashing lights and the police with the guns and all their uniforms can be very agitating to somebody that's in a state like that. So I just think we've got to find better ways to deal with this and to address that.
Yeah, I don't even know if I don't even want to go that far, Doc. I just want folk to do in other neighborhoods what they do in our neighborhood, what they do in others. If you don't shoot people in other people's neighborhoods, if you're not shooting people in the white neighborhoods, then there's no reason for you to be shooting people in the dark-skinned neighborhoods. None, and not at all. So why is the gun the only thing that you can use in our neighborhood? Surely, if this is what was normal practice, we'd hear about it in the county. We hear it about it other places. We don't. The only place you hear about it is in inner cities and places where people of color and black folk live, and that's where they pull out their guns. So it's more than just the training. They don't need training. They don't even need more money for anybody to study what's going on. There's a basic problem that you know how to pull a gun out in a community where black people live, and you don't know how to pull one out in white. When I was a kid, I used to cuss like a sailor. But when I walked in my mom's house, I didn't cuss at all. So it didn't mean that I needed training. It's a matter of will. It's a matter of what's in your mind. So in your mind, you know you can get away with killing somebody in the community. You can get your police chief and your police union's going to support you, and everybody's going to surround you with all kind of support and begin blaming the person that you killed, and they're going to keep getting away with it because there is no accountability for what happens to them. Until there's accountability, until if somebody says, hey, you're going to be fired if we find out you just use your gun first, until you don't follow the protocols that you have already, come on. It doesn't make any sense at all. And I don't even want to go to the other part about, well, you know, his mental health is something. What should we have done? No. You should have waited for backup. If you're that afraid in the community, you should have waited for backup. Because even when there's 3 and 4 and 5 cops, if somebody has a knife, they use a gun. That doesn't make any sense. None at all. You mean to tell me 4 or 5 cops cannot handle a guy? If you don't know how to do that, you should get off the police force. If you're that afraid of black people, you should stay the hell out of my neighborhood. That's the way it ought to be. And we shouldn't be, you know, I'm not getting into a conversation about whether you're mental health and all that. No, because it didn't have to be a mental health person. I guarantee you. It didn't have to be a mental health person. If the cop came into my neighborhood and saw the neighborhood, I don't live in that neighborhood, but the neighborhood where I pastor, the first thing they think about is using deadly force. That's the first thing they think about. First thing, when I get stopped by a cop, he's got his hand on his gun. For what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're talking to Reverend.
Shouldn't be on the force.
Yeah, we're talking to Reverend Ed Bailey. He is the pastor of Bethel AME Church in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where tragically an officer shot and killed 27-year-old Ricardo Munoz just a few days ago. And right in the neighborhood where Reverend Bailey pastors, he and other clergy have been meeting and the community has been protesting, obviously. So, Reverend Bailey, you just put a lot of things out there. The issue of accountability in Louisville. Yesterday, a record settlement was given $12 million to the family of Breonna Taylor, but her mom came on and said, look, $12 million is nice, but we want criminal charges. And so that $12 million is a settlement. It's not accountability. And the other thing that you laid out was that officers are scared. Now, the thing that I saw in that video, and I'm glad Rochelle Bilal was watching right now. She's a former Philadelphia police officer, former head of the Guardian Civic League, the Black Officers Union, and now the current sheriff of Philadelphia. And I'd love to hear her thoughts on this. But I saw a terrified person in a uniform. This guy comes out of the house. You know, these cops walk around like they're big and bad. Guy runs out of the house with a knife at you, and the cop turned and ran immediately and said, you know, blank, you know, the S word, and took off running and immediately turned around and just shot him about 5 or 6 times and killed him. That is, I mean, like, what kind of training is that? I mean, your point is well taken. That I don't think it's necessarily just the training. It is this inherent fear that a lot of these white officers seem to have around black people and brown people. I don't know what you saw in that video, but I saw a scared officer, and I'm thinking if you're scared, you probably need a different job.
But it's even worse than that, Doc. The white folks are looking at that video are agreeing with his fear. That's the problem.
Because they're afraid. Yeah,
they're afraid. And so they believe that he had a right to shoot that brother because when they saw that guy running at him, they all put themselves in the same picture. And now they would agree with that cop. You put them on the jury, they would find him not guilty because fear, white fear of black folk is legitimate in America. And that's a legitimate excuse to kill somebody black because you're afraid of them, no matter what it is, no matter what they've done. Afraid of them, you're afraid they're going to steal your car, you're afraid, so you lock your car when you see a black person in the parking lot with you, you're afraid they're going to steal your pocketbook, so you clutch it real tight, afraid they're going to steal your woman, no matter how ugly she is, they're afraid that he can be dressed fine, you're afraid, so you lock your car doors when he walks by. It doesn't make any sense, this fear that white folk have of black folk, and until they deal with that, we're still going to have a problem here in America because there's a deep-seated, unspoken of fear of black people. Now, I don't use people of color. This fear has been deep-seated about people who can trace their roots to the Africans who came off that enslaved ship. And that whole fear that America permeates America. Somebody said it better than I did. Said racism is not the shark, it's the water we swim in. And this fear that's in America of black people, it may get Trump elected because of white folk who have fear of black folk. And he always says they're coming to your home, they're coming to your neighborhood. And white folk who have common sense every other day lose their mind and will elect that nut to be president all over again like they did the first time, which is crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, Public Enemy said it well, almost 30 years ago in that hit album, Fear of a Black Planet. And I mean, and that's exactly what they were getting at, which is that fear. So I saw a video, and I'm not sure if you saw it, but it's been out there for a while now. And it was a white guy who had a knife, and he was, waving around, threatening at officers. There were a number of cops around them. And I'm talking about they did everything in their power not to shoot him. They actually used their vehicle to kept kind of like trying to like herd him into a place, knocked him to the ground so they could handcuff him to save his life. So if you start with the idea that the person on the opposite of me and this gun is a human being who's worthy of being saved, I'm going to do everything I can to save you. If your premise is that you are not on the same level as me, you are not really fully human, you're an animal that needs to be put down, then your reaction is going to be to put that person down because the person is not worth me running around a car trying to wear him out and find other options to disarm him. I mean, now I'm gonna just tell you, I agree with you on this, that's the part I don't know how you legislate out. I don't know how you train out. I don't know how you get that part out of policing in America today.
I don't either. But we have to try because they know that if you kill that white guy with the knife, you're going to have consequences. And so it's not so much the police officer; it's the people who are holding them accountable. That's where the problem is. Those are the persons who know better, but use these police officers. Police officers, they don't have any power. It's the people, the power structures that's behind the power of the police officers that hold them accountable when they kill somebody white, and they're not accountable when they kill somebody who's black. And that's just the way it is. And until those people deal with those folk, we're not going to get much of a change.
Yeah, all right.
Run the banks and run the businesses. I said to some folk the other day, as long as business is going as usual, nothing is going to change. As long as the banks can still open, the stores downtown can still open, you're not going to get anything changing. The only way people get change in America is when you affect the pocketbook. And the 60s, one of the reasons why they were so righteous is because people had to decide either you have your country burned down or you begin making some changes. And that's the only thing America seems to understand. Violence is the only thing that we understand, which is sad. It is totally sad that that's the only way you can deal with things in America is through violence, especially when it comes to issues of race.
Well, listen, we've been talking to the Reverend Ed Bailey, and we got to go to break. We're going to thank you for coming on. But the quote of the day, according to our producer, Kwesa, is when you said you have all the training you need when you're in a white neighborhood. And I think that says it all right there. We're going to continue to follow this case in Lancaster, and as things develop, feel free to always come back on and utilize this. This is the Power Hour, after all, sponsored by Power, and you are a part of our Power family as we're expanding across the state. So always glad to talk with you. I'm sure, maybe we'll find a later time. You can come on Bishop Royster's Friday night show, which is not as early as this one the next time. But again, thank you for being on the front line, Reverend Bailey.
No problem. Be blessed.
All right, we got to go to break. We'll come back. We'll unpack all of that and more.
The Word Radio newsletter.
Keeping you informed, engaged, and connected.
Sign up by visiting wordradio.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page and type your email address under Connect with Us. You'll receive the latest information on Word Radio. Messages from our president and CEO, Sarah Lomax Reese. Exclusive articles and multimedia content and resources.
Stay informed
with the Word Radio newsletter.
Pico has many ways to help you lower your energy usage and save money at home. Here's one. If your heating and cooling system is more than 20 years old, it may be time for your contractor to replace it with a high-efficiency Energy Star certified model. You'll get a rebate from Pico and save on your monthly electric bill. You'll find a list of new heating and cooling system rebates at pico.com/rebates. Or you can call 1-888-5-PICO-SAVE for all the details. Plus, find instant discounts on smart thermostats and more at pico.com/marketplace. There's free shipping on orders over $49.
Be heard.
Be heard.
Want another way to join the conversation?
Follow us on social media
Using the hashtag onWURD.
Be heard.
Stay connected to Word Radio.
Independent Black Media.
Tune in this Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. for the Islam Today show with a perspective on moral guidance and Islamic principles and values.
Now, a traffic update
On Word Radio.
Good morning. This report sponsored by Staples Stores. Southbound 95, we're going to find that getting busy this morning from Cotman down through Bridge through that construction. Again, delays Allegheny through Girard. Northbound, no problems yet. Westbound Vine Expressway, some slowing 8th Street out through Broad. Again, Lake Parkway through the Schuylkill Expressway. Schuylkill westbound University through 30th. Jam there down to one lane because of ongoing construction. Further west, no issues. Eastbound 76, no problems there as of yet. PA Turnpike and the Blue Route 476 moving fine. 55 northbound, you're at a jam there now from Deptford into 42. Staples has everything to start the school year right at amazing prices no matter where it happens. This week, pocket folders, comp books, and 4-ounce Elmer's glue just 25 cents each. In-store only, offer ends $9.19 while supplies last. Limit 6. School on, save on at Staples. For more traffic information, log on to sigalert.com. Jim Bachman with your Philadelphia area traffic.
You're listening to Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Independent Black Media.
Welcome back to the Power Hour with Mark Kelly Tyler and Dwayne Royster. Now, hey, we want you to join into conversation with us. Feel free to give us a call at 215-634-8065. Again, 215-634-8065. Or if you're outside the city and you're using your home phone, 1-866-361-0900. Again, 1-866-361-0900. You were just most recently hearing us in a conversation with the Reverend Ed Bailey, pastor of the Bethel AME Church in Lancaster, PA, as we were talking about the shooting that took place just a few days ago in the city of Lancaster, where the police shot a man who they said was coming after him with a knife, and their reaction to that. Now, your phone lines are open. You'll feel free to call us about that or anything else. And we know that Antoinette from Southwest is on the line right now. Let's go to Antoinette. Welcome to the Power Hour.
Good morning, Brother Bishop and Brother Pastor. I was calling because they do have a protocol as far as drawing your gun. Now, drawing your gun, that's the last resort. And most of the Caucasian males that's on the police force, they are afraid of African-American men. And I don't understand why he didn't call, for backup once he, seen that. And for me, I even struggled a female that was heavier than me to take a knife from her, because I was in the vehicle with Pastor Brown. He used to have a church on 1200 and Point Breeze Avenue. And it was like a large crowd where the traffic stopped. So I got out, and I went to go see what was going on, and it was like a large crowd beating on this one female. And so the female, she ran in the house and got a knife, and I had approached her and struggled with her with that knife. And I had like two line marks like in the palm of my hand, and even went to court to have the judge to show leniency on her, because it wasn't right for, the group of people to be jumping on this one female. And being so that I love people and I love helping people, that's like the last resort. They shouldn't even be on the force.
Antoinette,
Yes.
this is when you were a Philadelphia police officer?
Yes, I did
Right.
10 years in the 17th district, which is the busy district in South Philly. And I didn't have any backup, because I didn't partake in the corruption and all the nonsense that was going on. You know, so it was like.
So I'm sorry to cut you off because we don't have a lot of time, but because I want to ask you something about this. So I'm glad you called in. I remember, talking to you before and remember that you were law enforcement. So in training, because again, to the lay person who watches that video, it seems bang, bang, right? This guy, he comes out of the house without warning. The cop is just standing there thinking that the person who called is going to come out. He immediately raises a knife and the cop turns and runs. But talk about, 15, 20 seconds to a cop in that setting is not the same as it is to everybody else, is it? I mean, are there things that you're trained to kind of like a progression of things that you should be thinking about doing in that moment, or do you automatically just go for the gun?
You don't automatically go for the gun because you are trained like self-defense and how to disarm someone. And they teach you training with the pressure points on the body to bring somebody down and disarm them, like with a knife. I don't care if it's like with a hammer, but you are taught defensive tactics on how to bring somebody down and handcuff them and remove whatever they have in their hand. Especially if it's not like a gun, you know what I mean? So you are trained in the academy of how to disarm, and the pressure point. So killing him and shooting him, it's ridiculous. Like you said, if you're scared to be a police officer, you shouldn't be on the force. Because Absolutely. They teach you defense mechanisms. They teach you the pressure point. They teach you how to take down and disarm someone. The gun is the last resort. They don't need to be on the force because they cowards. They're a bunch of punks. All of them.
We got a couple other callers, and then we got to get to before we get off the air. But thank you for giving us a call, though. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Antoinette. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's go. Sheriff Rochelle Bilal is here with us right now. Sheriff Bilal, how are you today? Welcome to the Power Hour.
Good morning.
Sheriff of Nottingham. That's my. I love Rochelle Bilal. That's my sheriff.
Yeah, I heard your call this morning, and I feel the need to do this because it's in my spirit to do it. Antoinette is 100% correct as far as dealing with individuals and the training that we receive as police officers. We know how to disarm folks. And our continuum on the use of force is as much force that is against you. You are trained with a taser, you are trained with a baton, and you are trained with a gun. And the gun is your last resort. I think I've said this as the former, president of Guardian Civic League for years, that people are afraid of black people. And just let me put with this. Everybody is a human being, even cops. And people have their own fears. But when you are trained and your fear take over and it blocks you from even thinking. Now, running, nobody said you got to stand there and fight. That you can retrieve so you can figure out how to deal with the situation. You can always step back. Matter of fact, you could have ran that around the car a couple of times till your backup got there and handled it. And that's them saying, oh, we're quarterbacking. But he's right. The cops in today's, and only thing that the jury and them going to go on is them saying, I feared for my life. That's what they're going to say. And that situation will never come to court, and it will never come to a guilty verdict because police officers are given that right to say, I was in fear of my life. But in our neighborhoods, and everybody's correct on here, black people get shot, white people get taken to McDonald's. It's not only in the training, it's in the mindset of who is above the officer. You got to send that information from the top down as to how you deal with situations like that. It just has to change. And if it doesn't, and I've screamed this out too many times, when we start coming at these police departments, we need to start hitting cops in their pockets when it comes down to dealing with these lawsuits and issues. Not put it on taxpayers all the time that got to pay it out. Start putting it on these cops that got to pay it out. And you'll see a drastic change in how we approach situations. We police officers want to live too. And I keep saying this, they're human beings. And if fear sets into you quickly and you think no other than I got a gun and I need to shoot, then that's how you're going to react.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Rochelle.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
very much, Sheriff. Take care now.
Before you go to the next caller, so what she said brings me to something that's coming up. So one of the demands that Power has put on place, and we should actually probably talk about those on another show, was the residency requirement. We joined on with others like Solomon Jones and that whole coalition from last year from the Facebook post and developed a list of demands. And, again, I keep saying I go a step further. I think that officers should live in the neighborhoods where they patrol, because if you know people, then you're not going to have that fear. And again, a big part of this is, and Rochelle is 100% correct. A white jury in Lancaster County is never going to convict that guy, because when they put that still shot of that young man with that knife raised, with a crazed look on his face, they won't see their son. They will see, an animal, and that the officer had no choice but to kill, and they don't even think about the use of force continuum. So I think that officers, given the ways in which Black people are treated in this country, need to live in the neighborhoods they police, or they don't need to come into them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's go to Miss T. Miss T, you only got 1 minute, so just to let you know, but we want to get you in there. Miss T from Overbrook, welcome to Power Hour.
Okay, hey guys, how you doing? I love your show. So what I'm going to say is all this is a lot of nature, and it's systemic. Black men have such a presence. You all don't know your power. They have such a presence that white boys are intimidated. And I'm going to tell you, I've been on this earth a long time. I've dealt with veterans. That was my job. And I'm telling you, you all have a power that if you realize how you all are, you wouldn't have a lot of these problems that we have in our race. Because as a whole, the males in our society would just take over. You all don't know that you have it going on. But every time you see, like a lot of white women, they will insinuate themselves on you guys. That's because you guys don't know your presence. So I know I only have a minute, but that's what I had to say. It's like a nature thing. Take care. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ms. T. Appreciate you. Wow. So yeah, this has been an interesting show this day, as we have spent time talking about both the fiasco that was the town hall last night, and then addressing. So I have to give one of our listeners via Facebook has been giving me a hard time about my comments regarding parents and their kids, and certainly I hear you, and I'm not sure I agree with you, but I hear you. But anyway, we also want to thank the Reverend Ed Bailey for being here with us today, and our callers, Antoinette, Sheriff Rochelle Bilal, and Ms. T for giving us a holler. I always deeply appreciate you, the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler, for all that you do, not only on this program, but all across the city, and as the pastor of the Mother Bethel AME Church. Shout out to Coesa Mathis, our producer. Now, the Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, we'll be back here tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. to do this all over again.
And Sterling Johnson, who is one of the organizers at the home, they call it the unhoused encampment. That's the phrase they're using instead of homeless, on the Parkway, is going to be here tomorrow. He said he's going to be here to actually, he'll be in, not in studio, but he'll be on the call to help break down what's happening in the encampment. And glad to see Raphael out there, Casahu, Anton, Little, Joseph, Bernita. Glad to see, man, look at that. The Facebook group is growing. Bring your family tomorrow.
And don't forget to share. All right. God bless you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Calling me to answer, gonna keep on keeping on. can feel it in my bones. Early in the morning, before the sun.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
But they've got the